As much as I want to be done with 2025, especially December, I do still need to review the full month so I know where things went well as what I may need to change going into the next month. In this video, we are going to go over December, what I paid, what I saved, and where I may have overspent, as well as going over the budget for January. Hi, my name is Jen, and I am on a debt payoff journey, and I share my budget, my expenses, side hustle income, and everything else that I am using to get to the other side of this. So today we are going to review December, and before I begin, I just want to apologize in advance just in case the lighting is pretty crappy. It is a gloomy day here in Chicago, so I don't know how it's coming across on camera. I am also feeling like I'm coming down with something, so if I sound congested or I look puffy or anything like that, I'm just not feeling 100% today, but I do want to get this done, so I'm going to show up anyway. I am going to go ahead and open up my laptop so we can go ahead and get started. Okay, so on the screen, I have the spreadsheet that I am using. For my monthly budget, I have been using the spreadsheet that I have up on the screen, and I prefer to use a spreadsheet versus an app just because it's a little bit easier for me to follow. I do have a subscription to Quick and Simplify that I've had for a while. It renewed in September, so I still have it. And every time I log into it, I just cannot figure it out. And I know there's a learning curve. And to be honest, I just don't have the time to sit and get over the learning curve, I guess. So for now, the spreadsheet mostly works for me. And that's what I'm going to continue using for a bit. So we are going to start by reviewing the income that I budgeted versus what I actually made. So for the income, you can see the first two lines are my full-time pay. $3,054 is what I budgeted. That's what I got paid. Underneath that, I have my 4 weeks of shipped pay. And I had budgeted $400 for each of those weeks. My first week, I only made $261. The second week, $524. The third week, $518. And then the fourth week, which was the week of Christmas, is $800. That week I did work Christmas Eve and it was pretty busy, and that is what allowed me to make the money that I made that week. So I am thankful for it because I had a lot of overspending in a few categories, so that definitely helped me this month. For reselling, I have $281, and then I do have some income under other. So that was two different things. For my birthday, my ex-husband sent me some money, and then I had a refund on a purchase that I made like 2 months ago. So that is what I have for other. And then underneath that, I have my third paycheck, which is my extra paycheck for the month. That's the paycheck that I got on December 31st, and that's $3,054. And I have the money that I got from YouTube, which was $546. So that brings my actual income for the month of December to $12,306. So we can go over to my monthly bills, and everything on here is pretty much the same. My mortgage is the same, $2,137. And everything else on the screen is the same. I had a little bit of a difference in my water bill, and it was $57 versus $64 that I had budgeted. For Netflix, I did go down a little bit. And so now I'm at $18 versus $27. I still have the plan without ads, and that may be my next step. So Netflix is the one streaming service that I use the most. It is also the only one that I have that does not have ads. But because one of my goals for this year is to reduce how much TV I watch anyway, I will slowly be transitioning this streaming service to an ad plan to save some money here. Other than that, everything is the same. I do want to address iStorage. iStorage is my storage unit. It's $42. It hasn't changed. I do have intentions of trying to empty this storage unit. However, in order to do that, I need to make space in my garage to bring what I will keep from the storage unit into my garage. However, it is cold in Chicago right now. My garage is not heated. I am not able to spend hours sorting through everything that I have in there that's been there for the last 3-4 years almost. So it is something that I am going to do, but I will not do it until probably like end of April, beginning of May, when it's a little bit nicer outside and I can be out in the garage to do that. So for now, the iStorage will remain for the next few months. I'm sorry to disappoint everybody, but I mean, it is what it is. That brings my total for my monthly expenses for this month to $3,973, which is slightly less than what I had budgeted. So we're good there. So now we can go to variable expenses, and variable expenses is where things kind of went sideways this month. I'm still a little disappointed by it, but I do feel better after I did my little experiment and I saw what this month looked like compared to last December. So I am thankful for that, but I still wish I had a little bit less spending. So we can go over the expenses. For groceries, I went over by practically $232. And that is mostly because, like I explained in my last video, I had that potluck. I did bring a few dishes to Christmas. For New Year's, my daughter, her husband, and the kids were over. I overbought in snacks for my grandkids. And I did buy some champagne and things like that I normally wouldn't have had. I now know that for next year, for the holidays, I will need to increase my grocery budget for that month. And, it's a lesson learned. For my gas, I had $400 budgeted. My actual amount was $359. Water delivery. So I'm only going to say this, I'll probably say this in every video. Water delivery, I thought about trying to reduce it, and I did. And then I ran out of water, and it was like almost negative degrees outside. It was like the one weekend that it was freezing in Chicago. I ran out of water, and I didn't want to drive, let alone drive to buy 5-pound jugs of water. I think they're 5 pounds. So I did end up buying small gallons of water, and I refilled the jug that I had, and I made do with that. And then I signed up for an extra delivery because I didn't enjoy that process. I thought about it, and water delivery is just something that is important to me. I am not going to give it up. I would rather get rid of Netflix before I got rid of water delivery. So it's going to stay. I'm going to make room in my budget and figure out what else I can reduce. But I'm not going to get rid of water delivery, at least not right now. So for personal care, I went over by 73. Household supplies, I went over by 57. I needed clothing, which really was like winter wear, and gloves. I don't have a budget for clothing, which I know I need to start having something, but I also have not done grocery delivery in the winter. And what I had for winter wear, like gloves and scarf and that type of stuff, was not suitable for doing grocery delivery. So in the winter, I'm not really outside much usually. When I go to work, I do take the train, but I take the metro, so the train gets there usually at the same time. If it's not, there's a place to wait indoors, and it pretty much drops me off inside the building where I work. So I never really have to be outside, and especially not outside like downtown or anything like that. So the things that I have, the gloves that I had, the scarf, it's just not suitable for doing grocery delivery. So that weekend when it was super cold outside, I needed to go buy some new things. And that was $143. And for dining, I was under budget, so that's $144. Miscellaneous and unplanned. Look, I have tried every which way to figure out what I did here, and I cannot. I just know that that's the money I spent. I don't know why I picked one category over the other when I was categorizing these transactions. One is $139 and the other is $244. And I don't know exactly what that all was. I just don't have the time to go through every single line item on my receipt. But the lesson here over these categories that I went over on is, one, I cannot not track my expenses. A few days completely messed me up. And maybe other people are good with that and they can figure it out. But apparently I can't, especially not in December with the amount of money I was spending in December. So I now know going forward, I need to make sure that I'm tracking everything. Plus, I'm also going to start using the cash envelopes to help rein in some of the spending a little bit, to make it a little bit easier for me to know exactly how much I have left and not just swipe my card. So, I mean, it is what it is at this point. I can't go back into time and change it. I'm not going to beat myself up over it. At least it's cash and it's not credit, anything like that. So the next section is gifts, and that was $930. It's a little bit more than what my budget for Christmas was. And I don't have the exact amount, but I think I had like $810, something like that for my budget for Christmas. The gift that I had ordered for my granddaughter, which was like $77, it didn't come on time. I got the shipping notice that it wasn't going to arrive until after Christmas. And then I kind of panic shopped and went so that I can buy her something so she can have something to open. And that caused me to go over a little bit. Plus I was already kind of going to go over a tad. I ended up going over my actual budget by like $50. The extra gift that came for my granddaughter after Christmas, I am going to give it to her for her birthday. Her birthday is at the end of January. So even though I wasn't planning on spending that money in December, I was going to spend that money. It works out, but I did technically go a little over budget on my gifts. But the fact that I stayed under $1,000 and I only went over my initial budget by like $50, I'm good with that. Under that, I have rollover to next month. So I am going to start January with my full paycheck from December 31st. So I'm rolling that whole paycheck over to cover January. So that's what I have listed there. And then my city sticker, I had budgeted and I bought it. The birthday line item, that is what I used my birthday money on. So the money that I got for my birthday, I ordered some things for myself and it was $210, and that was that. I did want to highlight parking, so I added that on this list. I never realized how much I pay in parking or tolls. Tolls fall somewhere in that miscellaneous category, which is something that I probably will have to add to my budget. I don't really use the highway a lot, but when there is a lot of traffic and things like that, I tend to take the highway versus the street just because it's faster. I usually try and not take the tollway so that I'm not paying those extra tolls, but it is what it is. And with parking, I don't normally go to places where I have to pay for parking, but where my mom lives on the holidays and on busy days, there's nowhere to park around her house, and I have to park on like the metered parking. And when I do that, if I have to refresh the app for the meter, it's like $20 every time I have to add money to the app. And then I did go to the movies with my brother. I had to pay for parking for that day. And there was a few other days that I went into the city that I had to pay for parking. I don't think that's a common theme for me every month. I just think because it's December and I spent more time in the city, I ended up having to pay more for parking than normal. So that brings my variable expenses. Technically, it says it's $6,785, but $3,054 of that is my paycheck that I'm rolling over to January, and $930 of that are the Christmas gifts. So that's not a true number, but it is more than the $1,910 that I did budget for. So that's variable expenses. So now let's go to debt. So for debt, the first thing I do want to highlight is that I did pay off my TJ Maxx card, and that is completely done. And everything else I did pay the minimum on. For my Apple card, I did send about an extra $100, and I somehow like double paid my US bank. I'm telling you, December was not a great month for me. I double paid my US bank. Now, if I was going to double pay anything, I'd rather double pay my debt, right? So I made an extra payment to US banks. I ended up paying $87. So besides my TJ Maxx card and my Apple card and the mess up on my US bank card where I paid a little more, everything else I paid the minimum on. So my total payments for debt was $2,715. And everything else went to savings. So let me explain what I did with savings for this month, and I'm hoping I don't confuse anybody. But what I decided to do, just because I had so many expenses up front in January and I wanted to make sure everything was covered, I decided to hold off on even more debt payment for December. So I did what I committed to. I paid off my TJ Maxx card and I paid a little bit more to my Apple card. The rest I did hold in savings. So for savings, I put $100 in emergency fund, $300 in just in case. I don't know why it says $5 in birthday. I must have categorized something in birthday and holiday, but there shouldn't be any savings in there. So I'll double check on that. But $100 in home maintenance, $100 for vehicle maintenance. I do have $80 listed here for cash. So what that is my son had some cash from his tips and he wanted money in his account. He couldn't go to the bank to put it in the ATM. And so he gave me $80 in cash and I Zelled him $80 to his account. And so I am keeping that in cash. I'm putting it into my savings in cash. And so that's what I have there for right now. I just needed to categorize it somewhere. And my YouTube money, I put straight into my YouTube bucket in my high yield savings account with Ally. And that left me with $563. And technically that would be $563 that I would send to my Apple credit card. But like I said, I am going to hang on to that in my savings until we get closer to the end of January. And I will add it to what I have left over in January to make a bigger debt payment at the end of January. That's what I decided to do. So my total savings amount for December is $1,794. Also, I wanted to explain that the reason why I added money into just in case, I did not use my just in case. So if you've been following along and you remember, I had $500 in my buffer just in case bucket. I added $300 because of some of the mistakes that I made in December. I just want to be safe and I feel safer having a little bit more in my just in case buffer. Eventually, if I don't need it, I will take it out and send it to debt. But for the next few months, as I iron out some of these wrinkles, I just felt safer adding a little bit more to that buffer. So that is where December has left me with my income and my expenses. It pretty much leaves me at very close to zero. So I have everything from December either used or allocated, and that's perfect. And I have that $3,054 that I'm going to move into January. So now I have the January budget up on the screen. I have the $3,054 here in my starting balance. I know in a few videos I had mentioned having some issues with this spreadsheet, and there has been an update to the spreadsheet. And so I downloaded the update. There has been some formatting changes that I kind of like and some additional options as far as like a debt payoff calculator and things like that that I want to try and utilize. So I am going to give this spreadsheet a few more months. I'm going to try it out a little bit longer to make sure that it works for me. And the only thing I'm going to have to do is save the spreadsheet with a different name for every month. I didn't want to have to do that, but I will if it helps me out. I wanted to create something for myself, but I just don't have the bandwidth to do that right now. This will work for right now. And we'll see how that goes. But here is the budget for January. It's very simple right now. The income for January is pretty straightforward. My first paycheck, $3,054. However, my second paycheck, because there's going to be a change for my health insurance premiums, I don't exactly know what the new amount looks like after taxes and things like that. So I put $3,000. I'm hoping it's not a whole lot less than that, but we'll see after I get paid. And then for Shipt, I left each week again at $400. I know I was a little nervous for a bit there, but I'm thinking if I was able to do it in December, I should be able to manage to hit it in January. Plus, one of my goals is to make sure that I have $1,600 budgeted from side hustle income. And then I'm hoping to make an additional $800 to $1,000. I know I will have some reselling income, and I already know I'm expecting a YouTube check in January. So if for any reason I don't hit $400 each of those weeks, I know I will for sure have the $1,600, and we'll see what else I get. So I'm budgeting with that. That puts my income for my budget for January at $7,654. For my monthly bills, there's just a few things that have changed, and I do see that I forgot to add something. But my mortgage is the same. My HOA fee did change, and I don't know why. Like, there is nothing that this HOA is doing that warrants any more money. My HOA has gone up every single year since I've lived here. When I first moved in, it was like $290. I am not sure why it keeps going up. It doesn't go up by a lot, but it's the principle. Like, why is it going up? What are they doing? Anyway, it's $315. My Netflix went down a little bit, but it went down last month. And I didn't want to do this, and I forgot to add it here, but I am going to get my Canva subscription back. It's $12 a month. It saves me so much time when it comes to text inserts in my videos and my thumbnails. I wanted to do them in Photoshop. I am pretty proficient with Photoshop. I just don't have the time. And so $12 versus, an hour or two that I might need every week when I could be making more than $12 an hour doing other things. It just makes sense to me. So I will be renewing that subscription at some point this month. So I have to add it to this list. But what I have here, my monthly bills is $3,989. For variable expenses, I did increase my grocery budget to $850. I am hoping to eventually get it back down, but I'd rather have it budgeted than continuously going over. So it's $850. My gas is $400. Water delivery is $40. I know, I'm sorry. It's important to me. I did reduce my dining budget to $150 instead of the $200 that I had. Personal care, I put $50. Household supplies, $100. Miscellaneous, $200. And I have an oil change for $150. I do need to remove this unplanned. I mean, there's nothing there, but I want to remove it. I don't want to use it. The one thing I do want to say is that everything on this list, except gas for my car and water delivery, will be done in cash. My groceries, I do have a buffer in my spending checking account, and I will utilize that buffer to cover any online groceries, and then I will just redeposit that money back from my budgeted amount into the buffer, if that makes sense. This is just to help rein in some of that spending so that I am not overspending so much. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, it could go really good and it could go really bad. I don't know, but I'm going to try it because it's just something that I feel may really work for me now. In the beginning of this journey, not so much, but now I think I'm in the mindset where I think this will work. And so my variable expenses is $1,948. So we can now go to debt. And for my debt, the thing that's changed the most is my Chase credit card. I don't know if you remember, it was at a 0% interest rate because it was a balance transfer, and the interest rate is going to start ending. And I don't know exactly how it's being done because right now I'm only getting charged interest on a portion of the balance, and I think in another few months, another portion. So I think it's when I did the balance transfers that it starts charging me, I think. I don't know. But my minimum for my Chase credit card did go up to $227. So that is different. I do not have a minimum anymore for TJ Maxx. I do have it still on here as a line item just because I need to go back to make sure that there isn't any extra interest that I need to pay before that account is completely at zero. And then I do have all my snowball amount, my snowball payment listed for my Apple credit card. So that's including what I had paid for Express, what I had paid for Sephora, my minimum for TJ Maxx, and what I pay minimum to Apple, $313, is now going to be sent to my Apple card as my minimum. Everything else is the same when it comes to my debt payments. So my minimums for my debt is $1,761. Now let's go to savings. I don't have a whole lot budgeted for savings, but I will save more throughout the month with any extra income that I have. and once I start seeing where things can be allocated with. I do want to split my income that's left over at the end of the month between debt and savings. I don't know what the percentage is going to look like just yet, but I do want to focus on both. What I am going to do is use that debt payoff calculator to see exactly what I need to pay every month to make sure I try and hit that goal of getting that debt paid off by the time I turn 50, and see if I can swing it. If I can, then I will make sure that I'm making that payment every month, and then the rest will go into savings, or I may just tweak it a bit. I don't know. But for savings, for sure, I'm going to save $100 for my emergency fund, $100 for home maintenance, and $100 for vehicle maintenance. That's bare minimum. And then we'll see where we are at the end of the month. And that's it. That's all I have for right now for January. It does say I have $2,718 left over. That's because I am bringing over that extra check. I will eventually just put that extra amount into savings and then use it for debt payments. But we are going to wait until we're closer to the end of the month. And then I have February planned out so that I feel comfortable sending that money over to debt. So that's what I have so far for January. Hopefully it makes sense. Hopefully I didn't confuse anyone. I know when I'm sitting here moving numbers around and trying to make it make sense for me, it may not make sense to anybody else, but I'm doing my best to share it in a way that it doesn't sound dumb, I guess you could say. But I do want to say that I appreciate all the advice and suggestions that I receive in the comments. And while I can't do everything, I do take everything into consideration. And I choose to implement the things that really resonate with me and I feel will work the best for me. So I'm going to try things out, and I do want to give anything that I try to implement a solid 3 months or so to see if it works before I decide that it's not going to work for me and I need to change things up again. I am not an expert. I am learning as I go, and I am just sharing my journey, sharing what works and what doesn't work for me, my thoughts and my processes. And I am doing that in hopes to help someone that might be stuck, not knowing where to start, looking for different ideas. That's my goal here. I just want to say everyone is different. Everyone's priorities are different. Everyone's habits are different. I am working on changing some of my habits. I am working on reducing some of my expenses, eliminating things that I don't need. But I am also trying to be realistic. I know I am not going to cut everything out of my budget, and things that I might leave in my budget, others might think are a waste of money or not worth it. But like I said, I can't cut everything, and I am just trying to be aggressive in paying down my debt, still saving money, but also living my life. I am trying to not feel as if I am living a punishment. I am not spending money on lavish meals or expensive clothes or travel. As much as I miss traveling, I am not saving or spending money on those things at this time. I am just trying to build in some wiggle room, some breathing room to possibly be able to treat myself to something small every few months. It's not even like a monthly thing. It's just every few months. So I just wanted to make sure I addressed that. So for this next month, there are areas in my budget that obviously I'm still overspending. So my goal for January is to really lock in on those areas. And that is also, again, like I said, why I've decided to implement the cash envelopes. And the idea is that it will help control some of my spending on the miscellaneous and unplanned expenses, but also help me divvy up where I am saving and sending extra debt payments to. So I've already set up my paycheck budget for that paycheck that I got on December 31st, and I will be sharing that in the next video. Hopefully that all made sense. Thank you so much for being here with me again, and I cannot wait to see you in the next one. Bye.